Oh, fabulous. Okay. All right,
There's
let's,
more than
can
one.
we call this?
Oh, there you
I
go.
had a friend who was staying, visiting, and she's gonna leave tomorrow anyway, and we call this meeting to order.
I think we can.
And we call to order. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, the meeting of the Library and Community Center Facility Committee is called to order. It's 5:05. And I know Moira is still out of town. You've got the minutes from last, adjustments to the, I'm a little discombobulated from writing grants all day, so I'm like,
Everybody have a copy that needs it?
any adjustments to the agenda? You all have an agenda now. We, under the grant section, we're going to be asking for your signature for the grants that we're writing to Susan Collins and Ms. King. I'll explain that later. Okay, approval of the minutes from March 14th. Did you all get a chance to read them or not?
I have a quick question, as far as I can see, it looks great to me, but I just saw on the back. Where it says case statement workshop, I might be incorrect here, but where it says, Sandy Wiseman and Jan Gaudio took charge of going to the case statement line, by line version number 7. The doc was wordsmith, I think it should be ED, wordsmith.
Right,
Yeah.
it should be.
Oh,
That's the explanation.
oh yeah,
That's
I
good.
see,
Okay. I make a motion to accept the minute with the change.
as amended.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep, okay. So Marcia must be not coming. Okay, all right. I want John to be back in here, but that's the chair of our board of directors. And Rhonda was here last time. She's also on the board of directors, so this is good. Okay, here he comes. Hey. You want to sit closer, you guys? You know, maybe?
Go back to the table.
Why don't you come on to the table, because it's interesting. So Xander, this is John Spear, who's a select board member as well as the chair of the board of directors. Xander and Rhonda was here last time, Rhonda Nordstrom, who else have you met? Yeah, okay.
And that was not Maggie. It was a huge German
So that wasn't.
Not my dog.
So we're gonna turn it over to Xander. And,
Okay, so I'm sharing my screen here, and I hope for some of you, this isn't too anticlimactic, because it's kind of a redo of last time, with the exception of kind of sprucing up a couple of the images, and I also added another rendering, sort of a more on the ground, walking up to the building sort of thing.
do we get the salt box?
Can you see that okay, or do we need to bring the lights down?
No, that's good.
Good?
Okay, one more.
I'll get you.
Okay, he didn't do the salt box, but he's gonna do it.
Oh, I
After all of that.
apologize. I apologize.
That's the only reason I came.
I am sorry, I went through my notes and I went through it and I didn't pick up on it. Anyways, I apologize
You
for
did
that.
go closer to the doorway, I see from the drive-throughs.
Oh, yeah, well, that's not totally updated, but, so anyways, let's just dive in here. And really, I mean, part of what's important is we're just at the start of the runway. There's a lot of runway left to develop the project and to hone in on specific requirements and everything else. So this is really sort of the 30,000 foot view of things. And all in all, I think it's good because as we've gone through a couple of the massing options last time, I feel like there was some enthusiasm for each of them, and I also felt like, oh, these are all something that we could work with and develop a nice project out of.
That's also what we're looking at, Xander. Is this the existing footprint or is it the
Yeah,
existing
so
building?
this is the existing building.
Okay.
And you'll see the skate park up here in the corner of the property and some playground equipment here. This is where the public garden is. It's not in this aerial photograph, but it's located right here. And then our understanding is that the existing septic is somewhere in this area here. And then this is the footprint of the building and the driveway and the parking. So I'm just showing this to get you kind of acclimated to that existing footprint. Just like this. So. Let's see. There we go. And so this is sort of a more rendered drafted site plan, which shows all the same elements here. I'm not sure why those black bars are there, but.
The Zoom thing, I think.
Yeah, so anyways, this is the existing building again, shown here in blue. And then the specific elements that are on the site I've kind of highlighted in a lighter green with the garden area, playground equipment, the septic area, the skate park here, and then the various tree lines, and what seems to be a little bit of a wetland area over here. So, as you recall from last time, part of phase one was really to see, the instruction was basically to take the plan developed by you guys in your early development of the project and create a 3D mass out of it and see how it fit on the site and kind of how it related to what was there previously and get a feel for what it could be as it lays out, not only in massing, but solar exposure, parking layout, and whatnot. So that, sorry, I'll go back one. That area here represents the area, this red line here represents this outline superimposed on that existing footprint. So what I proposed last time, and I think was relatively well taken, was the thought of pushing the new building instead of over top of the existing footprint, sliding it back on the site a little bit to allow for the building to be constructed while the existing building was in operation. Now, obviously, there will be some logistical issues in terms of having an active construction site and a building that's open at the same time to the public. So it won't be sort of an ideal situation, but it will also be much better than potentially the alternative, which is moving the facility somewhere else or finding additional costs with that sort of relocation and temporary accommodations. So that would be sort of a phase one proposal, and then phase two would be removal of the old building, the existing building, and the development of the site, parking and pathways.
Is it going to be okay to drive over the septic area for the construction trucks?
Well, it probably is not ideal, so potentially some of the site access will have to come on the northern side of the property.
Right.
Or depending on, as you can see, hopefully we'll be able to get out there and locate the septic a little bit more accurately. But it looks like there's about a 30-foot swath potentially that they could get through on the side of the project, of the existing building. Now, last time we talked a little bit about the likelihood of the existing septic needing to be replaced, in which case we touched on the ability to perhaps design and build a new septic system that could be temporarily connected to the old building and then hooked up to the new building once the new building is built. So if we end up going in that route, we would obviously be able to locate very specifically where it is, and we could nudge it one way or the other to help accommodate the construction phase of the project. So this is,
Could I just say one thing?
sure,
The,
go back.
on the side of the building is where the septic tank is.
Yes,
the leach field itself is in the rear.
Is in the back.
Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware of the exact location of that, no.
Tank has been pumped several times by. In the state, so they know right where it is, but the tank is kind of up here and the leach field's more where that little L is.
Playground.
You can almost see
Okay.
it.
So that's where the playground equipment is, so.
Yeah, more or less, yeah, in that general area.
Is that okay, safety wise, to have the beach field under the playground? I don't know, I'm not saying.
I don't know that much about leach fields, I would assume so.
No, I don't think it doesn't matter really.
Yeah.
Leach field is,
Leach field goes down,
yeah, some of them,
Has enough rocks and things.
yeah, some of them you can drive on, some of them, it's really how it's designed.
Right, I know, because my husband's fastidious about the septic things, so I just.
well, I wouldn't drive on the septic tank.
No.
No.
You can level end up in it.
So obviously that, there are some specific things that will need to address as part of the construction, and coordinate. Getting a survey of this done accurately will help with some of these things. Some of the unknowns, we might not need to do some exploratory digging to find the corners of the septic field the septic tank or the leach field. But that should be something that we can do. And I think it would be valuable, before we get going with things to figure out what the game plan is for the final design. And then that can be incorporated in the site logistics during construction and obviously at the end of the project when it's complete. So here is the rendering of the existing mass. So this represents the existing building as it's located on the site. And then phase one would be constructing the new building in the back. And then phase two would be removing the old building and constructing the site. Now, there was a comment about the parking area. I know that the facility is utilized by the whole community, and a large part of the community is an older community. And so there were some concerns about the proximity of the parking to the new building. And it could, the site layout could be such that we can slide that a little bit further towards the building. It's sort of a matter of getting too far into the weeds right now when we have some flexibility and at the end of the day, we'll be paying an engineer to do
Did you
that
say
for
there
us.
would be an entrance down the other side where we go down to the basement now?
Yeah, so currently the plan that you guys gave me has 900 square feet of basement.
Oh, okay.
So basically, there's a retaining wall here. It's hard to see from this angle, but there's a retaining wall here that would allow for basically like a walkout basement.
So that's only in the basement. Okay, so that someone who needed access couldn't get in that way. That was what I was asking, was could we park closer to that? But
Well,
that's-
it kind of depends on how it's set up. You could have, in this layout, you could have most of your handicap parking back here. And you could have a corridor that goes directly to an elevator that would take you upstairs. There was some debate last time about to have an elevator or not to have an elevator. And then one thing that I discussed briefly with Jan and Sandy after last meeting is there's also another option, which it hasn't been explored, but could be explored as part of the next phase, is to have just everything on one floor. So right now there's around 900 square feet allotted for the basement. I think
It's
the
cold
stair,
storage.
yeah, right now it's allotted for book and miscellaneous storage and mechanical, electrical and plumbing. And the stair is in this spreadsheet as 210 feet. So 210 feet would be on the first floor and on the basement floor for the stair. So if we got rid of the basement, we wouldn't need the stair, and effectively you'd get 420 square feet back to utilize. And it wouldn't make the building all that much bigger to accommodate that basement area on the first floor. So anyways, that would be a very easy way to get rid of a stair and any discussion of an elevator.
Yeah.
But
If,
then don't we lose it with the groundwork, the earthwork that has to be done?
lose what?
Well, we save by not having to do something, but we have to do something else.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So it kind of could go in two directions in that regard. The exact sort of cut and fill, so cut is the removal of earth and getting rid of it, and the fill is having to come in and fill a void that wasn't there, or void that's there that you no longer want there. And those obviously have costs associated with it, and especially the fill costs can be quite high. So that's one component of building a basement versus not building a basement. Building the building where it is, where there's already a hole in the ground, and not building a building where it is already. Again, a relatively accurate survey is gonna help us kind of be able to situate the building to help deal with that as efficiently as possible. That being said, there still could be some costs associated with that. The other thing though, that in the inverse to that, in terms of cost savings with doing not doing a basement, is that on this site, I haven't seen a lot of it, but Maine is notorious for ledge.
Yeah.
So many sites that I work on, even if there's no ledge in a portion of the site, there's a big, huge boulder that goes as far as, the center of the earth, basically, in another portion of the site. And ledge removal and blasting is very expensive. So, on projects where budget is an issue and where ledge is apparent, there can be some really big cost savings by avoiding any blasting and ledge removal. So there could be a savings there. Again, digging some test pits and stuff where the building is planned to be situated will help give you a feel for how much there may be or might not be. There are always some surprises. Again, walking this site, I haven't noticed, you guys know the site maybe better than I do, but I haven't noticed any large outcroppings or anything like that. Whereas on other sites, it's very apparent that there's a lot of ledge there.
I live on one of those.
Land development, blasting's controversial.
Yeah,
Good neighbors, particularly when you're a public entity.
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
We found that out.
Well,
Yeah.
there are a bunch of different opinions on what best legal is. And ideally, maybe it's just hammering off the top of a boulder or something like that, but it can get a lot more extensive. So, and you can see here, I've started to embellish the rendering a little bit with cars and people and landscaping and whatnot. Again, this is the existing building as viewed from the north to the south. And this is a potential image of the massing and layout of a new project. Again, from the south, and then also from the south. This one has 72 solar panels laid out on it. I spoke with Revision Energy initially. This is the new rendering. This is a kind of an idea of what it might feel like to come up to the entry. So I spoke with Revision Energy, and I've since been able to catch up with Sundog Solar. They both, without actually doing a design, confirmed that the numbers seemed within the ballpark, in that a building that was of this size and all electric, a starting point of 40,000 to 50,000 kilowatt hours a year seems reasonable. And this generation with power generation with 72 panels could be in the 39,000 kilowatt hours annually. So we're not too far off with being able to be self-sufficient on power on this roof layer. So again, I've taken some time to embellish with the what we call entourage sometimes, with the cars and the landscaping and people, but this is the single the short pitch shed roof, and this one can accommodate 162 solar panels. Now, again, we're at the early phases of design, so depending on where the plumbing vents come out and other things, it's possible you could lose some. It's possible we could gain a couple, but maybe this is a slightly optimistic projection, although I think it's realistic. And with the 162, we were at 85,000 kilowatt hours, which is significantly more than the building's projected 40,000 to 50,000. One thing that I don't know that I mentioned last time, but Revision Energy told me that there's a new federal rebate program for municipalities, and it's 30% of the cost of the solar system.
Nice.
So prior to, I think, January 1st, basically, the only way a municipality could take advantage of the tax incentives, because municipalities don't pay taxes, is to do like a public-private partnership, basically. And basically lease the solar system, the solar panels from a private company that took the tax incentives and then sold it back to the municipality. I think this is much more in your favor, 30% rebate right out of the gate. It's pretty.
And that's just federal,
This is what?
that's just the federal side, I think Maine eventually.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, that's true. I don't know exactly
Yeah,
all of the combined incentives that you could get. But that's certainly a great
Yeah.
one to have.
Maine is pushing, for a lot of solar right now, so.
Yeah, in addition to, I know, my understanding is you guys have gotten some grant money and stuff in the past for solar, so there's other private partnership money, and that's one thing that.
That's gonna save a lot of electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at that, I mean, so there's a real potential that this building could help offset this building.
Yeah.
Sorry, the new community center could offset the electrical consumption of this building here, which would be, great. You have your own power plant, sort of. So again, there's a north view, a south view, and then the new view coming towards the entrance here. And again, these shapes and stuff might be jarring because they're still very much in a massing form, but the scale of things and everything seems to look good to me. And I think once we develop the plans further and start to put windows in and some materiality, I think that there's a lot of potential here. And so this is a slightly different plan where I've shifted the volumes, which I think can help express the building in a slightly different way, kind of project the entrance out a little bit more and give it a little bit more visibility. And it still allows us to do it during the existing one being there and being operational. But it fits slightly differently on the site. And then this is it with cars and stuff. This one is 160 solar panels, which is 72,000 kilowatt hours. Again, plus or minus, but it seems to be well in excess of what's projected for the project. You from the north, you from the south, and then an entry view. And again, they're all the heights, if you measure from basically the entry grade to the ridges on all three projects or all three massing studies are roughly the same, between 31 feet plus or minus to 33 feet plus or minus. So,
Yes, do you have the shed view of that?
and the short shed, the one that goes in the other direction, yeah, we can go back to that one.
I think we have 35.
Well, your ordinance is
No,
interesting.
I was asking for, with the offset volumes, yeah, but, like the offset volumes with the shed roof, yeah.
I don't know if I'm following.
So these are the two buildings right next to each other. And with the offset, do you have a view like that?
With that roof line.
Is that what you're looking
when
for?
the volumes are offset.
Oh, yeah, that was the last one we looked at. So you mean this one here?
Yes.
Yeah, so,
Well, no, the roof line is not.
Yeah.
See, here it's flat.
orientation of the roof line.
When you have this, you know, the roof line is, you know.
90 degrees off from what you have. Have you got a drawing that shows the roof line?
Oh,
90
slightly to
degrees
the
off.
right?
Yeah, the roof line slanted
I think that's
south.
what she's asking.
The roof line here is pointed south.
Okay,
For the
so
solar
slanted, west, I guess.
So slightly, oh,
Like right now, the face of the building look like a square.
yes,
Well, so with the roof line where it's,
it would look like a
Yeah.
square with a triangle on top.
yeah,
Yeah, so, well, I'm not sure if that is represented, do you think that is represented in this one?
yeah, like that, yeah, but you know, so.
But offset.
This.
Oh, but offset in the same way as the other one.
Yes.
I do not have one of those.
Okay.
There are infinite possibilities. But yes, I could.
No,
That took a
because
minute, I'm
the
sorry.
offset is quite nice, because when you come, you could see the inside of both wings.
Yeah, and here you
So
can see
you're
the
liking the
entry is,
offset,
Yeah.
offset.
the entry is slightly in shadow and
Yeah.
yeah, so I agree that there's potential to explore that offset we looked at in the last one
Yeah.
with different roof pitches. Let's see here though, in this case here, you can see if we did that with the way it is designed now, the solar panels would be facing largely west. So we'd have to do it in a different way. We might have to.
But you have many more panels when the roof is slanted the other way.
Well, this one was 160 and the other one was 162.
Yes,
Oh.
So there's a couple more panels, but it's
couple more, okay.
well, two more.
I thought it was 72 versus 162.
The 72 is the first one, is the.
The gable.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
Jan likes that one.
I mean, there, like I said, there are a really infinite number of possibilities and studies. I think these are good starting points.
Absolutely.
And also, depending on what your goals are, if your goal is to put as many solar panels as possible on the roof, then those are my marching orders and we'll figure out the way to do that. If the goal is to meet the energy needs of this building and this building only, the new building, then that's a different math. And so maybe a gabled option here, you know, you don't need as many solar panels. And maybe as we dial this in with an engineer, we might
We
find that.
always need as many as possible, because you don't know what the use are going to be, and we could install charging stations, or, you know, this is to last many, many years down the road, so again, the energy use of the municipal building can only increase the way I see it, and, so.
That seems like a great view from my perspective. Not all my clients feel that. So I guess I have a salt box that I need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some folks felt that
It's
just
too
that
high.
solid shed was a little bit severe, was that?
No,
The complete shed without the little
It
salt.
seems like maybe too much of a wall that like you're coming
Yeah.
up against. it,
yes,
so-
like, if it's going to be shaped that way, the front is just too overwhelming, you know, in height.
So just to see what the salt box would look like.
I can appreciate that, and it can come a long ways once we add windows and more texture and
Sure.
everything, but at the same time, you're right, if we did a salt box or something, we could bring that lead line, that ridge
Yeah.
line, at least at the entry, down.
Yeah,
Relatively
but, so, yeah, I just don't know, again, how many solar panels would be lost by doing that.
Yeah, I would say,
Are there solar panels on the roof? that you're talking about?
yeah, we'd probably lose, you know, 2 or 3 rows,
Mm.
I would say.
I mean, that's why the compromise would be to slant the roof the other way,
Right.
you know, because then the height goes down, it's not as overwhelming and we don't lose that many solar panels.
Yeah, I wonder if there's. You know, for me, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, and I
Yeah.
putz around with it for hours, but there might be a way to rotate it sort of in the other direction. I don't know why, maybe it's because I live in Rockland and I always come, you know, down the peninsula this way. But, this seems to face the entry as if you're coming down the peninsula, right?
Right.
As opposed, but it still has good visibility in the other direction. So there might be a way to kind of inverse this and come up with a roof line that, brings the ridge down at the entrance or pushes it back or something along those lines.
And
But-
still get the more sun, because if we have panels, but we don't have sun exposure, that's not great either, right? So you're
Yeah,
talking about more
there's
sun.
3 or 4
exposure.
things we're bound, yeah,
Yeah.
that we're gonna.
And
balance
just
out.
because of the way, you know, north is and so forth, you know, to me, it seems like the library wing would be the northern one. And then the community center would be, you know, southwest. Does that make sense?
But this one on this side is the
Yes.
community center space and that is the library space.
Yes, this one.
I think we're getting ahead of ourselves there.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, no, I think it's important. Again, it's all about passive solar and, you know, people, you need to start understanding these things.
Well, the next phase is specifically to develop the floor plans and see how they work in relation to all the work we've done to date. So, it's meant to happen, just in the future.
Could I ask a couple of questions?
Sure.
2 is just roughly, and I know you're just at the beginning of the runway, I get that, but roughly how many parking spaces are we have?
Oh, yeah, so what's shown here,
We focus on solar.
yeah, no, and I've got those right now, these designs that I've shown are showing 44 new parking spaces, or 44 parking spaces. Currently, you're around 38,
Yeah.
plus or minus, kind of
So
depends
that's
on how
not
people
really that
park.
many for.
It's not,
What is it, John?
44 is not
Not.
many, I don't think, but,
No.
but anyways,
it'll
and-
probably be the largest parking lot in town.
probably, yeah. And the other question I had was, when we were originally talking about, what to do with this property, we came up with the idea of the community center and the library. But we also talked quite a bit about looking down the road, and we're pretty cramped for space here. And we talked about designing a building that would be easily expandable, if there is such a thing, to hold the town offices, not the fire department and the ambulance, but the town offices.
Sure.
Has that been cranked into the thinking, at all? Because I think that's really important.
Yeah.
That we're looking at a 50-year horizon here.
Yeah, I mean, currently the way these schemes have been developed, I think the Gable one is probably the good one to start with. Now, you've got a fixed site, especially if we expand the parking even further, it's more of a fixed site. But I could see, you know, without thinking too much about it, that you add another gable volume, you know, and you've got another connector or you've got another entry or something like that. And it allows you to stay within the vernacular of what you designed originally. You could do a relatively small connection, whether it be, you know, in the middle or at the end.
To
or
the
at the
front, I would see it.
Probably at the front, yeah. It sort of depends again how we develop plans. And then you basically build another building next to the building. Now, obviously you'd have impact on your playground equipment and other things. Those are important, but they could be moved or they could be reduced or rotated, or maybe the public garden goes somewhere else and the playground gets expanded there, or, you know, something like
But if
that.
we were to put it in the front, right in the middle, you get your third volume, so it becomes like a musical fork.
Yeah, I mean, there's again, a lot of options, and I think what,
I just wanna make sure that it's.
Part of the thinking.
Have part of the thinking, yeah, that's all I'm
We haven't-
suggesting.
Yep.
I did contact Xander about it,
Yeah.
but
That may also be a good reason.
we
to
hadn't
think
been
about
talking
a new
about it at
septic
all.
system while we're thinking about this too, right? If you're thinking about adding more people.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the septic should be designed, but I mean, I've dealt with so many buildings where you would say, oh, if they only had put this here, we could easily unscrew here. But they didn't.
The first thing that'll happen day one is someone's gonna say this building should be twice as big, I can
Yeah,
guarantee.
yeah,
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
but I mean.
and it's easy to say that after it's done, because before it's like, how are we gonna pay for it, where are we gonna, you know,
It would
whatever.
make a great, in my personal opinion, a great addition to have the town office there.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
So
And
then,
I'm not talking in 2 years, but.
sure, and there's a certain level of, so for,
Back to Angus.
there's planning for it in terms of putting kind of a dumb rectangle on the drawing and making sure there aren't critical infrastructure running through that rectangle. And then there's planning for it, in the way of, well, how many offices are we talking about? Are we talking about another meeting room? How many more people? How does that impact the septic design? Do we build and design the septic for that now, knowing that we're spending more money to do a bigger septic system in Leachfield, but it'll be done and ready? Or, you know, what are the, because it's not always easy regardless to just put another building effectively onto a property. And this is your property, so and your project, so the extent to which that planning happens now, is really sort of up to you. I would recommend, obviously, that we try to get some sort of rough square footage of what we could envision that being, and that we at least allot enough property for a sufficiently sized septic system in Litchfield.
Cause we are gonna have a kitchen and a conference room, right, in the community space anyway, is what we were thinking, so we'll only be a couple of offices and a place for people to.
I disagree, there are a lot of town meetings.
I think another meeting room would be
Wasn't all
really,
But
part
gotta
of the
be,
point
right?
was to have town meeting in here, like that.
the community center is big enough
Right.
for town meeting,
Right,
yeah,
so,
for
so
200.
that's what I'm saying, is we're gonna have some of that infrastructure already
Yeah,
for the office.
If it's only for 2 offices, we should build them now.
Yeah, I don't think it would be.
No,
If
it would be
have to have a
your
public
meeting
counter
like
space.
this, it's
Oh,
all
I
Yeah.
don't think it has
So,
one like this, okay.
Yeah, but.
I don't wanna get you guys up so much back.
Yeah.
no, it's good, I think it's.
Craig,
Yeah, we think, there's a lot of land right here too for expansion. I mean, it doesn't even have to be there,
No, it doesn't.
although that would be nice.
It doesn't.
But I thought your idea that we need to be thinking about is good.
Yeah, that's.
But
You know, the
when
building
we're-
needs to be designed where we could add on.
But in the Guilford Butler's committee, that we discussed that quite a bit.
Yeah,
And that was something that
yeah, no,
seemed to be, you know, people would have felt pretty confident.
Would that then be, a reason to have a basement if you have your office, the town office there and access? I don't know.
I don't know that would drive it.
No.
We have a basement in this building that isn't used very much.
Yeah, I love the idea of no basement.
Yeah,
And you gotta
Me too.
remember too, an elevator, it's
Yeah.
maintenance.
Yeah.
I know, we don't
I
want
mean,
that.
I used to work in the schools
It
and
needs
these
to be
guys come,
inspected. it
they
needs
come
to
for
be
2
certified.
hours and it's a $600 bill.
Yeah, yes. More than that now, John.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
yeah.
I wanna buy a car that still has a roll down. window.
I mean, it's 22 years old, but yeah,
Yeah, well, that's,
I was thrilled to have roll down
what
windows.
am I gonna do with all my tapes?
Oh, I have a tape there.
I'll give them to you. I'll bring it to them.
I can roll mine away.
So, I think, you know, the front, because we are losing the Guilford Butler building, so there is all that space in the front, so I think the, you know, town building in that space
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's actually a good idea.
Oh,
I
you
think
you
it'd
mean
be
in this kind of lawn
Have
area?
it in front there.
in the front.
Yeah, so I mean, those gables could just grow,
Yeah,
or one of them could
Or
just grow, which is
lower.
what you were talking about, a
Yeah.
like a tuning fork kind of like
Yeah.
this, okay, now I've got it.
yeah. Because this way it's still its own space and, you know, we can create an entrance for the other 2 things, you know, behind, I mean, I'm I have this in my head, but it would look nice because, actually I'd like it with the third one right away.
And that's important, it wouldn't have to be a separate secured space, it could
Yeah.
be locked up at night and nobody needs to get
Yeah.
in and,
Right.
raise money in there,
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm here to do what you guys want me to do in a way, so it can be designed to that level, understanding, okay, how would this be secured and everything else? Or it can be designed like, okay, we think that this can work pretty well, like we've accommodated the space and feel that there's room for future growth. Because again, in 10 years or whenever that happens, it might not be for the offices, it might be for the whole new
Right,
whatever. We don't even
it might be
know.
the new consolidated town of,
Yeah.
something. yeah,
Knox County.
Yeah, exactly.
Waters.
We really don't know.
no.
So,
So next steps, I know we're at the end of this phase.
yes,
On the end of your contract.
well, the contract you signed has 2 phases in it.
I know, but
So,
we
yeah.
only gathered the money for the first half.
Yes.
So I'm looking at phase 2 right here of the schematic design deliverables and estimates when plans are developed according to room sizes and uses and elevations, are developed some more, as well as starting to get some code information and et cetera. But the survey is in this section as well. So I'm wondering if that is the first, if we have the money to go forward to get to the next end of this schematic session, would the survey be the first thing in that?
I think it would be very useful, yeah. I mean, a lot of it just has to do with efficiency and not wanting to go backwards because of new information or slightly inaccurate information. So a survey would be a really nice thing to have. And while it'll provide me some important design information, again, related to cut fill, oh my gosh, we've got a 14-foot retaining wall that's gonna be expensive, or, trying to manage some of those decisions. But it's also gonna be the background for which they're gonna design the new septic system in Leachfield, and where they're gonna put the new power in, and where they're gonna, all of that stuff is gonna show up on that drawing as well. In addition to the parking layout, all those types of things. And it'll probably, it's not included in this, but shortly after this maybe, or maybe part of this, I would determine on my own or with you guys, if you have a strong preference, who I'd be using for civil engineer and for engineering, and I would probably float this site plan to them to say, am I missing anything big here? Do you think this is realistic? You don't want to drive lanes. I think I'm pretty close, but I do preliminary parking layouts for a living. I don't actually design parking for a living, so it'd be useful to have some of their input as part of that process.
Mhm.
And a site plan is sort of the first step in getting that done.
Aside from the big grants that we're writing, we did put a grant in for $15,000 for the part of, part for you, part for other startup issues. So we won't know about that till beginning of July. So that's sort of the next step in terms of I think we've got to get through June, which is town meeting.
You may want to. I mean, June's not too far away, but we might want to discuss getting on someone's calendar for a survey, depending on how busy people are. I've had anything from 4 weeks to 6 months, it can really vary quite a lot, and that might determine who we would choose to, but you might see if we can't get it scheduled, and then if things don't work out, they can probably fill it, no problem, and someone will be happy to take the spot.
Would, Beal, is that his last name? Be able to do that level of surveying of the,
I assume you're looking for something a lot more detailed than a boundary survey. I mean, you'll-
Yeah, a little bit.
Contours.
Yeah, I'd like
You
one
said
foot contours.
contours and,
Yeah,
So that's like a garden level.
yeah, I mean, when I talked to him, he felt that he could handle that, and he's already has a rudimentary boundary survey they did with SAT 5,
Right.
so. It's a possibility, I don't,
Gary Lindorski don't necessarily have to do the survey in order to do the
engineer,
engineering.
and they're gonna be.
Not cheap, is that what you're gonna say?
I was thinking about Brian and Smith's.
They're fair, but it is not,
But we have a South Thomaston person, he has a seasonal, it's not seasonal, he has a home here, live in New Hampshire. But he is a civil engineer and works for a pretty good sized firm, don't know, he's a neighbor, might be somebody that at
He's a
least
very
get a
agreeable
bid
and
from-
generous guy, so
very,
oh,
yeah,
maybe,
there you go, that could be a
and it's
resource as
a
well.
employee
that?
owned firm.
Brian Smith, his name is.
I'm
He
sorry,
lives
what?
right next to me, Brian Smith,
Oh,
he doesn't live there, he,
Yeah,
some,
but he surveys, right?
well,
Trying
his
to-
company. does.
Oh, I see.
But they work nationally.
Yeah, they're mainly dealing in airports,
Oh.
but not exclusive.
So that could be a great resource, usually there's like a couple guys that come with some equipment and shoot the elevations and all that stuff.
That would be the information.
Good.
Okay,
Any other questions?
so how do we get that stuff from your computer onto our computers?
I'll send you an invoice now. I'll just set up a Dropbox, if that's convenient for you guys.
Okay.
So I'll set up a Dropbox and I can share it with like the two of you, or I can share with, whoever you guys want me to. And you can as well. And basically, just because they're large files, then you can download them and you can share the link to anyone and they can download it as well.
Okay,
Okay.
sound good?
If you want it on a flash drive or something, I can arrange for that too. It's not a big deal.
You bought a bunch of flash drives, right?
If you want, I can put it on the flash drive. The only thing that
Makes it mobile. Make it mobile, it's nice.
Yeah,
the-
could we get a
the-
couple of them?
Pocket, take it.
Yeah, I can, so there's two different things. Yeah, I'll have to think about it for a second. I don't mind doing it,
Yeah.
it's just that, like, the PowerPoint presentation is set up to present to a group of people like
Yeah.
this with a fade and all this stuff, which you might want, that's fine.
Yeah,
But the still images, like if you wanted to print a poster like the size of that poster there, I have images that size, you can't do that from the PowerPoint presentation, I have to give you those images individually. So if you want to swing by my office, it might be easier just for me to get those all together, put them in their individual folders so people can make sense of it when they
Okay.
get it.
Okay.
Do you just want two? I think you want. I can
really?
do as many as you
I was
want. If
gonna
you want
put
that
one for
back,
everybody in the committee, because we're going out to talk to people
Yeah,
after
that's
this,
totally fine.
there's 7 of us.
I mean, I'll have it done tomorrow. You can talk about it.
Oh, really? Okay. Great. I need to give them invoice tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
All right, I'll swing by tomorrow. All right,
Okay, I'm gonna leave the meeting.
I'm gonna excuse myself.
yeah, no, great,
you.
thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Thanks. Nice meeting you.
Yeah, nice meeting you as well. Thank you for your
I'll
comments.
stay just for the grant.
Okay.
Thing and then.
All right. All right, so thank you, Xander. Any other things about this that you need, that I need to know from before we move?
I do have a question, and I'm thinking about this, we're going to be using these photos, right, when we're doing the ambassador things for the village, right? Okay. I just thought of this when I was looking at the exterior, we talked about knowing that there are other options. What happens if some of the people that are for this don't necessarily like the way the building looks? Like, for instance, they want to see more wood or something, thinking about.
They can't translate this to a real building, in terms of windows and, is that what you're talking about? Like
Yeah, well,
being able to
Right
imagine?
now, we're just showing.
No, that's what we want.
volume.
right, I get that, but I'm thinking, because I'm thinking about typical people would be looking at the exterior and saying, wow, that's so modern looking, and what do we do with it if they vote not to have that particular shape or the exterior. I don't know. I'm-
You want that
I'm
input.
nervous.
I would welcome that input, yeah.
Oh,
Note
good.
that. What would you like to see?
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
tell them that those are blank sheets. I mean, that's a blank space.
Yeah,
There's no doors, there's no windows, there's gonna be more.
I think that's-
so get all that information from.
Right.
Right, it's just an option.
Those are concepts.
And
That's all.
also,
Right.
if we've got these two different types of roof lines, you know, to start to think about preferences, you know, what appeals, what
Mhm.
feels, you know, more welcoming to you,
And
or.
as you heard, there's pros and cons to each, you know, from efficiency, from.
Exactly.
Yeah, so-
And if I may, you might, I don't know exactly what you're planning on in terms of materials and stuff, but include multiple things of different versions so that when it's presented, it doesn't look like it's locked in and everyone's made a decision and here we are.
Point.
What it's gonna be. People can say, oh, I kind of like this one, or oh, I
Also
kind of
have
like
this.
that one. And it helps engage people.
Different
in the
ideas.
process, you know, they start to create a favorite thing and all of a sudden, you know, they're part of it.
Good. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Try to provide sketch pads for people.
Yeah.
They could kind of explore what they
Good
want.
idea.
And this is all really about generating some excitement and
Yeah.
getting people, you know, the realm of possible here.
But we can't promise them anything. I
No,
Oh, no,
but we
no,
want
we
their
said
input.
that. But we could say, yeah, you know, that would be great to, if you could give us, you know, some kind of a head scratching of what you're thinking about. We'll present these to you.
And I think, you know, as we've talked in our committee, I think ultimately, we're gonna have to look at those inputs and balance those against, you know, cost, against
Yes.
efficiency,
Correct.
you know, and all those sorts of, and come up with something that's, you know, hopefully is a little bit of all worlds,
Yes,
but isn't gonna be all one or the other.
right. And it shouldn't, because we're trying to represent the town.
Right,
Right.
right.
Not an easy task.
No, it's not.
We're very lucky. Suzanne.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Thanks for all your work on it too.
No problem.
In the afternoon, is that when I should come by?
Yeah, after lunch would be
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
If you want to just shoot me a text
Yeah,
or
I'll
whatever,
shoot you,
so I
yeah.
know that I'm there
Okay.
for sure. Okay,
Good.
bye.
Okay. Do well.
Well, while Rhonda is still here, let's talk about grants for a minute and then go to the ambassador group work. Is that all right with everybody?
Yeah.
So we have 2 grants in right now and then we started on these very large congressionally directed spending, which at first they advised us from Susan Collins' office to go for the whole cost of the whole project.
Good.
And then they would fund if they agreed to it, if they liked the project, they would give us 75% of the $3,460,000 project. And I was like, oh, we're not ready, you know, I know you had that feeling, and Barbara Wright's talked with somebody at Susan Collins' office, and she said, it's the kind of project, a little jewel in some town that would excite a congressperson. They don't want to know that they're only paying for phase 1. They want to see a project from start to finish.
Yeah.
I said, okay, that makes sense, you know, I can get behind that, because I was thinking we were too early in the project. So the way that it works is we have to get these grants in by next Monday and Wednesday respectively, and we don't yet know about Shelley Pingree's timeline. And then they let us know by about June or July, early July, whether our application has been accepted into the pool of possible projects, and then Susan Collins will decide which ones she wants to, give funding to. And then we have to wait almost a whole year till the appropriations committee meets and this year was March. Yeah, we just heard about this, it's March, but it's supposed to happen in December, but it never does. So somewhere between December and March is when we'll know when the money's available. So that's a whole year of us working pretty much, on this. So we're going for it. And, but it made me think, and we've talked about this before, that, now we gotta keep really careful track of what we're doing. And
Yeah.
so I proposed at the Board of Directors meeting that we form a specific grants committee, Candace and Rhonda and Barbara Wrights and me. And I'm probably gonna do more grant research than grant writing, it's just 'cause it's so time consuming. But that we keep track of all these grants, you know, in a common file, so we know exactly what we're doing and we don't, you know, as we find new grants, but the next grants will be much less. Like, the Stephen and Tabitha King Foundation is in October and that's a 50K grant, so, you know, we'd have to start thinking in the terms of if we have to raise essentially $860,000 ourselves, a combination of donations and grants, which is a big chunk right there. So anyway, that's,
So at this point, we're assuming that there won't be any wave at the town meeting in June and that we are just move forward and.
I don't know what's gonna happen. Do you know anything more?
Well, of course not. I mean, but I don't think we have any reason to believe that we shouldn't keep moving. I mean,
Right.
we've had two town meetings that basically have endorsed this process. The town is gonna reverse course at this point.
Coming up again as a vote,
Well, there's a couple
Not
people.
yet, but there's some interest in putting it on the warrant. I don't know
Yeah,
really what the selectmen are gonna decide, whether it goes on the warrant or
the
not, but
warrant has to be done soon, doesn't it?
very soon.
I think Jeff said as long as the question is legal, he has no, you know, recourse, he will be on up for a
well,
vote.
but then John said at that same meeting, they could put a counter proposal in. John is very much not interested in having it on the warrant, you know, but I don't know what the, you know, the legal issues are. So we'll see what happens.
And it needs to be understood that there won't be an end date, it's like we raise the money until we are done raising the money, so it may take 2 years if we're lucky,
Yeah.
you know, if all those grants come in, and like it may take 4 or 5. you
Yeah.
know, and-
Well, if we don't get the big one this year, we would apply for it again next year when we're further along, but it would be good to keep, you know, us moving along the design process, I think.
And the other thing too is that a few of the grants that are small and, I brought an older sheet.
Oh,
so
did
I
you
don't
bring
think
your
the one
thing
that's
in?
current, but at any rate, you can apply for them, twice a year.
Yeah,
There are not a lot, many of them, but there are some,
Right.
and, you know, it's a decent amount of money that will give us an impetus to do something, it's me.
and there's one on that, on your list, which I looked into, the Neil and Louise Tillotson.
Yeah.
They, there's a grant, I didn't look into it specifically, but there's one grant in that you can apply for $300,000 over 3 years, which sounds
That's good,
great.
yeah.
I mean, there's not that many multi-year grants, so
No.
I think we should, you know, do some research on that one.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of learning to do.
Yeah,
And
well, we all do.
Nice to meet you kids, we've never met
But
before.
people are very, if you call and you find somebody to talk with, then you're
they're
gonna
very
know.
nice.
Yeah, people are good. So anyway, that's the grant committee.
Very good.
And we're gonna meet for the first time, April 29th. Did I send you that date? Yes, I did. At 5 o'clock.
But
Are those public meetings?
my question
No, that'll
is,
be
What are the Swiss?
you know,
a subcommittee.
we have a nice case statement and so forth, which is great to provide plans, but like when you're applying for the big one, when they want to hear about the whole project, it's like, now are we gonna be stuck because we don't have enough engineering information?
Well, see, that they may come back to us. I've looked at both Susan Collins and Angus King's application. I
Yes.
was working on the King one today. And it was I thought, oh, I'm just gonna be able to cut and
I
paste.
think the program that gave, you know, what we worked on over this past year and a
Right.
half, actually, is.
So we have to decide, which, we need letters of support, which, will come from the select board, and I've got 3 letters of support already from citizens. And this committee, that's our next job, we're gonna sign a letter of support, and then I will put that in with the application.
Mhm.
So,
But the cover letters have to be individual to that, so that's one thing that maybe you'll have common information that should be in those cover letters, but it has to be worded thus.
well, I think Jan has written us a very nice letter, one for each of our Congress people, so
Well, that's
should
good.
we do it? Should we sign it?
Sure.
Yeah,
Do it.
all right.
That's fine.
You should have a special pen.
Go ahead.
One
Next time, They're basically the same letter.
Yeah, sign them, make sure the right person's name is on it, right? You're going to Angus, if you don't want to send it to Susan.
Well, no, there's one for each. There's one for Susan, there's one for Angus, there's one for Shelley.
Okay, okay.
So there is the same letter, but obviously tailored to the right address and the right person.
Thank you for writing that, Jan.
Well, it was relatively easy because you'll notice the words from the case statement are kind of intermingled in there.
Yeah, and you know. the
It lended
statement
itself
has been
easily.
Great, we've been working with it. The Angus King answers are like 100 words and all of a sudden at the end of 100 words.
Yeah.
We were pretty, you know, we had some nice long paragraphs in there, but Susan Collins was like 450 words,
Wow.
you know, so our case statement is very well. for- I hadn't really.
Okay, so,
Okay, so the next thing on the agenda will be the ambassador group. Let's wait till we get those letters signed.
Yeah, that's bad.
So I made everybody a packet
So far, it's only
and we'll go over it and then you'll tell me what else you need.
Maybe you'll walk some back.
And we will have,
so
we'll have Xander's stuff, you know, to get,
Xander, we're gonna get only the pictures that he showed us today.
say that again, what?
What we are getting from Xander, you know, to use in
Yeah.
presentation, is just the set of pictures he presented.
The
Yeah.
PowerPoint.
Yeah,
He didn't do the
he
sofa.
said he was gonna get me a cell box rendering. I don't know why he forgot that.
I don't know.
Anyway, all right, so. That's your packet. Kate's packet. Okay.
We put our name on it?
Huh? Your name's on it. Catherine.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, So what we've got in these, let me sign these first, we know. Oops, better.
Blue?
You're doing blue? Yeah, I'll do blue.
You can do this. Do they have, oh, I'm doing black, but we've got blue here. Look.
I'll do blue. Here's
Yep.
blue.
There you go.
So I would very much like everybody to try to do one before town meeting, two if possible. And we work together in pairs so that one person is presenting and one person will take notes down from comments, and so we have a good, not really minutes, but something that helps us to figure out what's going on in town. And you can have 4 people in your house, you can have 8 people, and I mean, it's really not one thing or another. If you got 3, I have no words. Sorry, I'm.
All the where it's supposed to be there, just in case they forget. right?
Yeah, so this first big page is just the goal, what we're after. The goal is, you know, to create interest and to get people more knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And you're not really presenting, you're leading a conversation, but you're going to give some information along the way. And so we will have the floor plan from, so in your packet, did I put, yes, I put the let's see, you all have this again, so the floor plan is in here. Would you all like to have this on your computer? I mean, I have the files.
Good file, yeah, it could be useful.
Okay, so Sam, let me make a list of everything I have to do. And this one, I took out the floor plan for the 2-story, you know, that was too confusing. Okay, and we need the stuff from Xander. The program description, I think this last page in this is very good in terms of efficiency, building performance, and budget. So, and the very first page in here is the mission statement, so you can memorize that.
I'm saying it a few times.
Yeah, I mean, it's-
Six, four, seven,
It'll take-
so.
and then, let's see, visual and the handouts. Okay, I also have included, the surveys, summary from our survey of a couple of years ago. Frequently asked questions that we used at last year's, public presentations, and, that's that. And then I gave a sample outline meeting, just, I don't know, I mean, you can do it whatever way you want, but I just thought, you want to get everybody to introduce themselves and talk to each other at first and present the new building first, the new ideas first. And then start to get questions and comments. If you want to read the mission or the design vision, you can do that, but you don't have to. And then, have that conversation about the new building, and then facts about the Guilford Butler Center, which is another piece that I put in here, I think. Did I? No, I don't know if I put mine in mine. Oh, yeah, here's a fact sheet from the Futures Committee and the Guilford, and the structural analysis.
That's really if there's questions.
That's what,
You have that as a backup if there's questions.
if there's
during that.
questions, if you need to say what's
Somebody-
wrong
What
with,
the Futures Committee say, or why they do that.
if somebody say, what's wrong with the building, you have some knowledge of how to talk about it.
Right.
You don't, and again, on this, sample outline, I put a short history at the bottom, but that's not meant for you to hand out or read or anything. Just if somebody needs a little more history of when we voted or how it's gone over the past 5 years or so, you have that information. So you need Gabe's stuff, you need that in a file form. And we have to get you Xander's stuff, which he's gonna put on the thumb drives, as well as a Dropbox, so we could, you can do the PowerPoint if you wanna do the PowerPoint, so. So what do you think? You got enough information?
I don't think you've done it.
Yeah.
Did you give us two of that?
Oh,
Did you
did I
intend to
give
give us two of that?
Oh, maybe, maybe that's why I don't have one.
Well, there you go.
No, I haven't.
Okay,
Did you get,
I did it too.
oh, okay. You got everything?
I think so.
Okay.
So are we going to mention what John just threw in about the possibility of expansion?
Well, we had talked about that in the Futures Committee.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever been off the table. I just
No,
wanted
right.
to be sure that we're still thinking about it.
But he reminded, because I got involved with this, I wasn't thinking about it, so he reminded me that, oh, I've been meaning to talk to Xander about that. So I threw it at him. And,
Given, you see, to me, it makes sense to do it in the front, it's overdone, because that's open every day of the week, while the library and community center is not. So,
Right.
the easiest access, and that's what's gonna be the most visible, but at the same time, it's offset. Because for security reason, it needs to be its own
Own
enclosed,
entity, yeah.
yeah, so. And it would be nice actually, just
Yeah,
volumes, make
Yeah.
it more of a center, of activity.
in the Futures Committee, there was this feeling that it was good to have somebody in an office because there isn't always somebody in the fire department, and that they could call each other.
Yeah.
But we can still do that. I mean,
Yeah,
but that was kind of why we didn't go down that path to begin with. But they're very short of space, the fire.
yeah, in the town where I come from,
They're really not.
the fire.
They're really not?
Oh.
Oh,
And then the.
Really not. I mean, you're sitting in it.
Is brand new.
so
You'll hear that, but they're really not.
that they can't get in there here to have their meetings and
Of course
stuff.
they can be.
Okay, I'm misspoken, but I heard that.
Yes, and you will hear that.
Okay. So it's, as we heard though, it's not gonna happen for quite some time, and that would have to be paid for by the town, I would think, if they do that, so. I mean, we're not gonna fund that one,
No, it shouldn't be.
no.
Come on down, experience, we can do this. We just get
Once
it for.
the
Raise one
bonds-
pile at a time.
Once the big school bonds are paid, you really can tackle another bond.
Well, maybe the town should pay, what does it, pay weekly, so mega millions, you know? I haven't won $40 in the thing yet. I'd like to win some once in a while.
Well, that's the grant that first grant, the Narragansett #1 Foundation. I just, that one.
Yeah.
That I hand delivered down to Bar
I know,
Mills.
good for you, by the way.
It's a couple that won Powerball, about 15 years ago. And then they decided to invest it in create a foundation to support community projects.
Wow.
And they did say that they would fund startup costs.
Mhm.
So that's why,
Interesting.
yeah, very interesting.
And they primarily focus on their area, but they also expanded it.
Actually, Rockland got one for the AIO from them a couple of years ago. So,
Sweet.
so obviously, we're on the map. So we'll see, if that comes through. That's 15,000. The other one is a small one. So I guess my feeling, is that our committee should really be working on ambassador groups right now.
Mhm.
And I was gonna say we wouldn't meet in the month of May, but May 2nd is the first Thursday, and the board of directors is gonna take our slot and have a meeting with Layla Murphy, the
We
capital.
should all go.
Yeah.
We should all go. to
Well,
that
so that's
meeting.
the question. You're all invited. It would be great if we were all there. If there's more than 3 of us at that meeting, then I have to do an agenda. I have to be official. But
So Leila said she was available for that day?
yes, yeah, 5:30 that day.
5:30.
It's an open meeting though, isn't it?
It's an open meeting.
So we can just go as citizens of South Thompson. We don't have to go as a committee.
Right, but John said to avoid conflict of interest or something, to avoid, what would it be?
We're
Again.
stretching it. I mean, I hear you.
So I may have to do that, but
That means if you and I walk into the store down here and the 3 of us are in there, we have a meeting.
I
Yeah,
know,
I mean, come on. I mean,
okay.
I know what the rules say. I don't mean to be sarcastic.
Yeah.
I think we stretch
Is
it
that
too
5
far.
o'clock then?
5:30.
5:30.
On the 2nd of March.
On the
May.
2nd, yeah. So I thought it was a great, so we don't have any other big business to do except ambassador groups, which is big business. So, everybody can get going on ambassador groups and figure out who you're inviting. I've started inviting people for April 28th, I think it is, Sunday. I hope I can get a group
Can I
together.
partner with you guys since I don't know anybody in town
Yeah.
except you guys?
Yeah,
I only have one neighbor and they're not.
yeah.
And my house is being painted this week,
Oh,
Tony's coming tomorrow.
I know you want to be outside though. You would
Yeah.
prefer to be outside.
But it's like the first group, but there are 4 people I really wanna catch and,
Okay, so maybe
so
just a small-
4 could be inside,
Yeah,
and,
okay. So just figure out who you want to partner with, at any one time.
Did we want to talk about people so that we
Yeah.
don't invite the same people?
Yeah, that's what I was
Talk
hoping.
about-
Yeah,
You're gonna do Kevin and Tony and.
yeah, and, Ken and Ken. And Steve and Teresa. Well,
You got all this?
Ken and Ken.
I did myself, yeah.
Okay.
By the house, the White House.
I was.
You and I talked about it briefly.
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't talked to them already?
You and I talked about it, remember the other
Yeah.
day?
Yeah,
So
No, I haven't talked to any of these people yet.
all right.
I
you're
just
not
kind of
gonna
want to
focus on the
decomplect.
folks down by us on Dublin that are not.
I had another list.
Well, I want to have them in, so I
Picture
wanted them to
them.
see all this, it's just that, those folks are one entity.
Very positive.
And, no, actually, not all of them are.
So the people on.
And,
Oh,
and then, for, Snow Hill Lane.
Conflict that you and I had this.
Yeah, that's my neighborhood.
what,
I think you had them
You-
initially on
yeah,
the
we
list
can
too.
take them if you want.
Crown.
That'd be
Yeah,
great.
I did.
yeah, but Snow
I don't
Hill,
know about
there
that.
is,
Yeah, but,
what's her name?
Yeah,
He's somebody who is.
I mean, these are all kind of neighbors. It's-
Yeah.
They're all on Spruce Lake.
right. Do you know, Elizabeth?
And I
Lunch?
feel, if you could ask her
She's the
to
one
I
that.
know the name, but I don't know.
Yeah, I can invite her.
She
I
could pull really
she
good
feels
results.
I can ask
Yeah.
her,
As opposed to have them come to us.
because I've talked with her.
Yeah, if you know her by all
Yeah, I
means.
Know
definitely
very
know.
well, but they are
And
not well.
Who else over there
right
that I-
now, and, so going to a closer neighbor.
All right.
might be an easier
so,
thing.
Yeah. And I can do my
another
neighbors
list
on
somewhere,
Brownsville.
but this is the one I was gonna do first, so I've talked to some of these people so far.
It's a good
Okay.
neighborhood.
Kate,
You meet
yeah,
them, they're
so
good.
mine are all along Waterman Beach Road and
Okay.
down Pleasant Beach for the first
And
meeting.
yours are all Dublin Road?
We are
area?
gonna do, yeah, the
That
big
Dublin
area.
area,
Okay, because mine are kind of Spruce Head and Spruce Head Island.
Yeah.
Okay,
okay.
Oh, that's perfect.
Don't take my
Are you-
part, don't take my part of Spruce Head Road here, because I live on that too.
that's okay. Where, I mean, do you know who you're gonna invite?
Not yet, well, no, I've got neighbors I've never met before, so
Perfect time to do
that's
that.
exactly. I'm gonna knock on the door and ask them to come over, and I'm gonna tell them we have a little snack and.
Oh, yeah, wine and cheese or
conversation about
something.
some new project.
I wonder if Cheryl, what do you think about Cheryl Waterman?
I'm gonna knock on her door, I like
But,
her.
yeah, I love Cheryl, so I mean, I would get her
Yeah,
if somebody doesn't
I think she's,
take her.
yeah, so you take her.
Cheryl's a no nonsense,
Yeah.
good
Well,
person.
but aren't we pairing?
Pardon me?
Well, that was the other question. I heard you say pairing.
Yeah. Pairing.
Oh,
hosting
pairing,
two-
yes, pairing. I thought you were talking about food and I'm like, what?
Well, you could come to my house, and then when you do yours, I'll go to your
Yeah,
house.
okay,
Is that okay?
yeah.
Or if Jan, I mean, if you're gonna, like, again, depending on the
that's true, but-
people, because you have a good relationship.
But I'm happy to
with
go over
Cheryl.
to Jan's house too and I take the notes,
We
you
could
know?
do that.
I love that.
Doesn't matter. I didn't know we were pairing.
Yeah, I mean,
I was drafting my wife.
Stancio, Andrew Stancio, he's on Century Road there, Century Farm Road.
These meetings are
Danica,
about
yep.
building relationships, so if you know you have already a close link with people, make sure you address them.
Mhm.
And, you know, it's about that, so don't necessarily, do people you don't know, but if you know somebody, grab them.
Well,
Can we
and-
talk about dates and like, oh, I can go on an email? That's not really a meeting, is it? Can we do that? Can we say, I'm gonna do this on the 28th. Oh, I'm available, I can come
Yeah.
take notes for yours, and I'm gonna do this. We can do that on
Yeah,
email,
yeah,
right?
we
Without
can,
it being
yes,
a
we can do that.
I was going to ask you if you have one on the May 5th, are you gonna have one on May 5th?
I don't have one on May 5th.
Because it says May 5th here.
Just understand that
Where?
anything in
No,
email
no,
is,
it's your
public.
sample
and
letter.
could be
Oh, that's a sample.
requested
I
on the
put it in the
document.
future.
That's
no
my birthday.
decisions being made.
Right.
Is it-
Right.
Good.
I was gonna
That's
try to
what-
get some wine.
So one person I did ask that sort of, I don't even know exactly where she lives, but I had asked Bev St. Clair to write a letter of support as sort of a member of the Historical Society would be good for our grants.
Uh-huh.
So in doing that, I also asked if she and her husband would like to come to my house for this, and she hasn't said yes or no yet, but so just so
Good.
that's on anybody else's list. Everybody else is right in my immediate neighborhood.
Okay.
Come to your, this and
Okay.
see what you.
You wanna come and see?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think,
I can come take notes, but I could also just.
if we decide on a list of people, I think it would be wise to run it by the others to make sure, they're not
And the
being-
dates. and-
Yeah.
And then we can just say, oh, I'm available, I can come take notes, or,
Yeah.
What are we talking about? A couple of hours, an hour?
I'm in that sample, it's about an hour.
Okay.
Plus if you have, food, wine and cheese served.
Can we
Or-
serve wine?
Well,
Lemonade?
not at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but later.
Two.
Beer too.
It's not somewhere.
That's right. So Jimmy Buffett said.
No, I don't care. Everybody's on their own as far as how they wanna handle
Right.
a group. And
So we're considering the main meeting is the presentation from Leila.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so just to go back over to these names, do you and Rhonda, when we get these names, how do you wanna get these names?
Well, that's the key. There are the issues, okay, even for us, so Rhonda and I are working with Little Green Light. And we don't have much to enter so far. We can enter the name of the people on committees and the boards, but I don't know your mailing address,
Right,
all this info. I would need you to fill a little info sheet and name of your spouse and things like that, so that you're part of the system. And for grants, same thing, we should get this information entered so that if the money comes in, it can be entered properly on the balance sheet and so
Okay,
forth.
all right.
And
so we
then,
should give you the names of grant organizations that we're going.
yes,
Okay, and how
and
much?
then, so the address and so forth, the amount of money and, the deadline, I mean, things like that, so that we can keep track, on a time horizon about what we can expect when, or is it a big zero or some money? And then in terms of the meeting, yes, if you actually are going to invite some people, you will get their information at the meeting.
Right, we have these response cards.
So then those response cards need to be gathered, and Rhonda and I will have to decide whether you are past each of you with inputting the information, or if between the two of us, we can do it, which
Yeah.
I think we can.
Yeah,
So, and eventually, because the way Little Green Light works, you become a steward of the people you have talked to. Again, it's about developing relationships and, you know, engaging people, soliciting their, input, their opinions, and eventually money or support in a, in kind way or whatever. So, you will have to learn how to get onto the system to check, what your group of chickens
Yeah.
are like, what they are doing and so forth. And write any information, like if these people are going to be away for the season, we need to know that, so that we don't try to contact them, or we know where to reach out to them, not leave a phone message here if they're going to be in another state or things like that. So, in the end, it needs to be tracked pretty closely. And, so that the person is assigned to an individual, so that it's the same steward who contacts the person as
Right.
much as possible.
Right,
To avoid them getting,
yeah, requests from a lot.
Very good point.
Yeah, that is a really good point. So our contact would be with that person. So-
yes.
All right,
And if you're not gonna be able to contact them when some communication is necessary, then somebody can take over and explain, Sandy is away for the next 2 weeks and we would like to reach out to you, and,
Yeah.
so
okay.
that's it. But,
Yeah.
So,
This is not my forte to get everything.
yeah, and then
tiny.
even, I think, Rhonda will deal with, our treasurer, Barbara, because same thing, any money that has been raised ought to be entered in the system. And so that, again, the accounting, it's going to get challenging, and,
Well, that's when we started writing these big grants, it's like, whoa, we gotta really, more
yes, so
careful
it
about
needs
what
to
we're
be
doing.
tracked very closely, and
Mhm.
that's why eventually the integration with QuickBooks will be seamless, because the two software can talk to one another. So
Right.
they can know, what has been received, what is receivable, what is a pledge, what is not, the timeline and so forth, so it's all in there.
so this is really good, if you're here for Layla Murphy, and I hope you will be, I mean, those are the kinds of questions that,
Yes.
she is very, very helpful with,
Yeah.
and will,
And again, Little Green Light, I can't say enough good things about it. They have all kinds of tutorials. So available, you ask a question and then they give you a list of the tutorials that are appropriate. And then they run seminars, webinars regularly. And then they also have, they form help groups. People, like, they can assign you a mentor in some way, or you can, because they don't do the consulting,
Right.
they charge you if you want a private session, but they offer all these other free ways of getting the information you need, so. Yeah,
that's great.
it's a very good software.
I can see us pulling out the chart paper now. It works though, that's what.
I know, there's a lot of things, once we start really getting into a campaign, like signage in front of the library, maybe with a drawing, and, oh, that's the other thing, I don't think I told all of you, so I have, found a graphic designer, pro bono, she lives right before you turn, right, where 73 turns right towards 131, that way, right on that corner there, the little yellow house. Her name is Sally Ann Field, not the flying nun. And she's got a design business. She's moved here a couple years ago from California. And so she's gonna start with a logo that is probably not referencing a building, because we don't really have that yet, but something modern and that feels like it's about community in some way. I don't know, you know, I've looked at her website and she's lovely. So it should be a kind of, you know, upbeat kind of logo, so we can do some letterhead stuff.
I mean, it's a nice tool, you know, South Thomaston Library and Community Center, you
Yeah,
know, so.
Yeah,
And, you know, that's for the auxiliary on top of it, or the word is.
no, it's for all of us
For the
raising money,
project,
yeah,
yeah.
for the project,
Okay.
yeah, for the project, definitely. And what else was I gonna say about that? I think that's it. So that's where we are.
So is that a report to the board of directors, just that they're gonna meet next?
So that was what I wanted to say about the board of directors. That's,
Okay.
is that, first of all, the graphic designer, which they approved my recommendation. And I mean, they were all, I interviewed 3, they were all very nice. 2 of them were retired. And I just felt like this one woman was in the business, you know, and so if we need to get other work done that would not be pro bono, I would like to have somebody in the business, so. And she's really excited about getting involved in the community, so that was a good link. So the other issue with the board of directors was Layla Murphy, and I had said that, you know, she's just so smart about capital campaigns and, you know, doing things at the right time.
Is it, Layla, L-A-Y-L-A?
Leila, and I'm not sure if it's Layla or Lila, do you know?
I would say Layla.
Layla, you would say Layla?
But it's up to her how she does.
I'll have to ask her again, I'm sure I've asked her before. And so she has lived in Rockland, but she lives now down in Portsmouth and still has a place here, I think. And so she was gonna be up here all that week, that first week of May, so I said, oh, great. So.
Great.
Our agenda.
Now, it's, just to go back to Xander and the next phase of operations, if we're gonna basically say, okay, you're done with our phase 1. We don't have any money to do the survey, so we're now sitting waiting for grants or fundraising
Yeah,
to be able to engage him for phase 2
right,
or to start doing the floor plan.
right.
What is this phase 2?
It would be the floor plan design.
So
But it
it's-
would be engaging him as
we
a final
already
architect?
broke up phase 1 into two sections, phase 1A, phase 1B, or phase 2. So we're still in pre-design, no, we're in schematic design, so it's a future development of more full development of where the rooms would be, and therefore where the windows would be, and we'd start to see some sense of what the outer finishes might look like and the shape, so. And I really think we should go, but you know, it's gonna be another $7,000 or something like that, so.
All right.
So we
I mean, because if that is in place, you know, the final architect will not have much to.
so after, okay, so let me tell you, so after that phase is done, then there's design development, which obviously is starting to be more exact floor plans and,
Yeah, the final architect would be basically creating something that the
we don't,
contractor could bid on.
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah,
talking about a lot more
we don't
details.
get to bidding for a while, you know, we've got construction documents that have to be developed and then bidding and negotiations, which I'm assuming we have to get 3 bids, do we?
I mean, there
I would
is a
think so.
lot
Yeah,
Being a
in
town.
the design phase, like choosing materials and so forth, that's getting involved, but it's like in terms of the creative,
right,
you know, a lot would be happening in this phase too.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot that can be done, and then the bidding and negotiations, that's when we see, well, we don't have enough money, or, you know, we gotta cut back something, or, you know, that's that whole thing. And I don't know for public, I know for houses, there's either you say, I've got $500,000, and that's it, you know, so, you know, it's
Yeah, is it a fixed price contract or a
Yeah.
cost plus?
cost plus is the other, I couldn't remember
Yeah.
fixed price.
And-
The first house my husband and I built was fixed price, we had that much money, and
Right.
then this one was cost plus, so
Yeah, it's harder to get a fixed price in today's
Yeah.
market
I'm sure it
because
is.
the unknown material
Yeah.
costs.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, every
But
day.
at the same time,
The housing market is starting to
go down a little bit.
Oh, sure.
The builder, I don't know, the builder that built Barbara's house and my house and some other houses on Spruce Head, Don Pendleton, he's up in Hope.
Yep.
He came in, it was me that added things, you know, what he said he was gonna do came in as he said he was gonna do it. He was
Yeah.
very careful and even more careful at, well, no, he was very careful. I just, you know, there were a few places where I said, oh, it's not gonna work.
Yeah, he did our house 30 years ago and did a great job.
Did
Just-
you?
He was just starting out.
Oh, that's your house. Oh, and he's doing
Yeah.
another one over there somewhere along the road. Yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah. So I don't know if he would bid on this, but
He did the East Wind Inn remodeling too. I don't know if you-
yeah,
my daughter was very involved in that
yeah.
down in Tennis Harbor.
Anyway, so we'll have to pull our,
Good guy, sharp guy.
he's a very, he
talented
used to
builder.
go, I don't know if he still does, to the Spruce Head Church. Did you know he was a member of the
Good.
Spruce Head Church? For a while, he went on humanitarian trips to different places. Not that he could build anything. On one place, I think it was in Africa, he was holding lights for the surgeons. You know? He said that-
That's a risk taker, I like that.
Yeah. So, all right, so, so I think really what we need to do is get out there and talk to people, and that's your job. And we'll schedule just our meeting for us in June, but May 2nd is Layla, and then ambassador groups and Jan and I'll,
Yeah.
June 18th.
June 18th?
Is town meeting,
Town meeting is June 18th.
so we'll have another.
Be in town.
Yeah, and I will be out of town almost up to June 18th. The month of June. I get back that weekend before the 15th, 16th. So I won't, if we're gonna do an early June meeting,
Oh, okay.
I won't be available.
Okay. All right, well, I mean, maybe we can just,
Well, it depends on what shakes out on the ballot too, on the warrant, so.
Yeah,
We should know that soon though, don't they have to go to print?
Yeah.
Yes. it should be very soon.
yeah.
All right, are we adjourning?
We are adjourning. Is
We, have you completed the agenda?
there a motion?
I move, I motion.
So
I'm
no,
moving.
no public comments, no correspondence.
No, we don't have any correspondence.
The review for the next agenda, I think,
Is,
as we put these meetings together, these ambassador groups together, we need to notify each other.
right,
Yes,
Date
yeah,
and who,
talk about
yeah,
that,
yeah, please,
An email.
and stay on it.
Okay, and
And
then
if
the
I
next
don't,
meeting we schedule
I'm gonna try for April 28th. That's a Sunday. So
for an ambassador group.
for ambassador
Already got
group. It is,
Okay.
Whatever that's.
Then we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, we
Oh,
got.
wait,
motion
wait,
to adjourn?
Okay,
Somebody seconded it?
second, all in favor?
We're done.
Thank you.
Good.
All right. We need to close the meeting on electronically.
Yes, now I can do that. I know how to do this.
All right, so just.
Did we have anybody online that we knew of?
So I don't. It was so sunny, it had to be a mix up.